You know how, just as a passing thought, we all long for intimacy. Most of us. By and large, we all long for intimacy. Some of us are maybe born loners, but even those also long for different kind of intimacy. And when it comes to the intimacy of sharing it with another person, we all, of course, long for love. That love for another human being and love of another human being. In other words, we want to be loved and we want love. Someone. This is fact. This is the reality of a situation. And how often when we feel that love first, or soon as we begin to feel that initial sense of loosening up the boundaries, because you cannot love someone with boundaries. It's simply impossible. And the very nature of love is all-encompassing. You cannot love from a fortress. You can only love as the open valley, where nothing really stands on the way. And as soon as that initial impulse is being felt, there is this wave of fear and contraction comes in. Why that is? It is rooted in this, what we speak about now. It is linked to that. Although that's what we long, we at the same time afraid of the feeling and the power of love to take us over, because there is this self-preservation comes immediately, which somehow gives us sense that we will be hurt. That opening up immediately surmounts for a possibility of being hurt. So the initial impulse is almost that, that fresh spring day openness, this. And then, gosh, like, what does that mean? And that counter wave comes in and tries to preserve these boundaries. It tries to preserve that where we are open and vulnerable. Because in that open, vulnerable place and state, we feel we are open to being somehow done wrong. What is it rooted in? It's rooted in these experiences. It's somehow this got into the system. That whenever we opened up, there was always a possibility for that being taken for granted, or somehow being devalued, depreciated. And the whole thing doesn't allow that natural flow of love, doesn't allow that unfoldment, doesn't allow that openness that love is always accompanied. Of course, if love is strong enough, then it will shake the house. It will try to do everything to break these boundaries. And we erect these boundaries like a dam, and then it will just wash it over. And yet, that what we speak now and spoke in terms of that purity of the nervous system here is what defines how that love would be experienced. Anything that somehow there doesn't allow, cannot afford for that great flow of love will be experienced in myriad of ways where that love will be thwarted. It will be forced to narrow passages, pathways, and because the whole system, when we speak of love here, we speak of absolute consciousness. Love here is not just an emotion, although a feeling, although experienced as such, although it is unspoken of as the great waves of feeling. Love, in essence, is when the boundaries, self-created boundaries, fall away. When the self-created boundaries fall away, love overflows, because love is consciousness. Love is equal and synonymous to awareness. So when awareness starts to overflow, it can only overflow when boundaries fall away. But boundaries cannot fall away if there is fear for self-protection. And that self of identity here is often defined by experiences which seemingly impede our capacity for that openness, for that feeling of love. Feeling of love, awareness, consciousness. That's what that love really represents here. It's not just loving someone. Loving someone is that bizarre cause and effect scenario, which in fact has nothing to do with it. When we opened for love, then it will quickly find an object of our self-expression. When we opened for love, we will love everything. Maybe we cannot admit that we can love everyone, and we will prefer to love a particular person. But when our heart is opened at the time when we love a particular person, because it's simply also a matter of habit, we find ourselves that we love everything at that time. Just remember, whenever you loved someone, you at that time loved everything. Everything. Love was the most dominant experience. Yes, the object of your love became the dominant experience. But that's just a state of affairs. That's natural, because nobody yet knows. Most of us don't know what happens when we love. So therefore, very quickly, that subjectivity is being sacrificed in the object of our perception, which we then associate and make the reason for that love, when in fact it is the other way around. It is completely the other way around. So when we love someone, although the object of our awareness eclipses everything else at that time, and we cannot help but thinking, feeling of that someone, if we are attentive enough, it's simply experience of love that is within and nowhere else. It is our love, the love of our own awareness, as awareness, simply forgone temporary boundaries. the floodgates, that's what it's called, overflowing. When it's overflowing, you cannot stop it. The container no longer holds that, and it flows over and over and over. And then, of course, the intelligence of the heart, in that intelligence of the heart, we realize what this is about, how we love, how we grow in love. We realize that we don't just love one person at the expense or exclusion of another. That love keeps flowing, and we love more, each day more. There's more capacity to do that. And the only reason why that is not is because there are some self-imposed boundaries checked by the parameters of these unprocessed experiences, some of which are so unprocessed that we speak of them as traumatic. So it is not that someone can love and another cannot. It is not that someone is more gifted in that. It's all to do with these boundaries of how it is contained. So therefore we speak of that, indulging in these boundaries. And I want to bring this as a reminder for you to not to indulge in this. Because this indulgence impedes and restrains you from direct relation to everything and everyone. Because that's direct relation to everything and everyone is a conscious way of love, life, and it equals to love. When that is there, when love is experienced, what else do we need? What else is needed? What kind of self-realization is needed? We're not worried about whether we are doers or not. We're not worried about whether this is direct path or a long, windy road. When there is love, love is sufficient into love. It's causeless and reasons fall away. So this is also spoken here in these terms, so as not to forget about it. So if we want simplicity, this is the bare simplicity of it all. There is nothing more simple. Nothing more simple.